She was cast out with a baby and no food. The cowboy fed them both and gave them shelter. The sun had barely risen and the world was still quiet, except for the soft cries of a baby. Emma held her tiny child close, feeling the fragile warmth against her chest. The early morning air was cold, and her thin coat did little to protect her. She had walked for hours, maybe even days, though she had lost track of time. Hunger gnawed at her stomach, but the baby's cries mattered more. She whispered soothing words, rocking the little one gently, hoping to calm the frightened child. Her life had changed in an instant. Just a few weeks ago she had a small home, a life she thought was safe, and dreams for the future. But a series of cruel events had left her with nothing. Betrayal, misunderstanding, and bad luck had pushed her to the streets. The most painful blow was losing the support of the people she trusted. Now she had only her baby and her will to survive. Every step was heavy, but she knew she had to keep going. Her baby depended on her. Emma walked slowly, her feet sore and blistered. The streets were empty at this early hour, and the few people who passed by barely noticed her. Some avoided eye contact, others whispered and moved quickly. She felt invisible, though she carried a child who deserved care and warmth. Each step was a reminder of her struggles, yet she refused to give up. She looked at her baby whose tiny hands curled around hers and felt a spark of determination. She had to find help. She had to find a safe place, even if only for a night. She reached a small park hoping to find a bench to rest. The wooden seat was wet from the morning dew, but she had no choice. She sat down, cradling her baby in her arms. Hunger was sharp, cutting through her mind like a cold knife. She thought of the last meal she had, a few scraps from a convenience store that barely filled her stomach. The baby's cries made her stomach ache even more. She had to find food, but how? She had no money, no friends, no one to turn to. As she sat in the park, memories of the life she had lost flooded her mind. She remembered the warmth of her small home, the laughter of friends, and the security of having someone she could trust. Now, everything was gone. She felt tears prick her eyes, but she blinked them away. She couldn't cry in front of her baby. The little one needed her strength. Emma whispered to herself, "We will be okay. And somehow, we will survive." Hours passed slowly. She tried to rock the baby to sleep, but the small one was restless. Hunger made both of them weak, and Emma's hands trembled as she held her child. She looked around the park, hoping to see someone who could help. There was a woman walking a dog, a man jogging past, and a few people heading to work. Each time she approached them, she felt a wave of shame and fear. People might look at her with judgment. Some might turn her away, but the baby's cries pushed her forward. She tried to ask politely, "Please, do you have any food? Anything at all?" Most shook their heads and walked on. One man muttered something under his breath and hurried away. Emma felt her heart sink. The world seemed so cold, so uncaring. But then, she reminded herself that she had survived worse. She had a baby to protect, and giving up was not an option. She sat on the damp bench, holding the baby close. She hummed a quiet song, hoping the sound of her voice would comfort her child. She felt a tear roll down her cheek, but this time it was mixed with hope. Somewhere out there, someone kind would see them, and they would not have to face the night alone. By midday, Emma realized she could not stay in the park. The sun was stronger now and the city was waking up. People bustled about, heading to work, carrying groceries and going about their busy lives. She tried to remain unnoticed, wrapping herself and the baby in her thin coat. Hunger made her dizzy, and her legs ached from walking. She needed shelter, even if it was just a quiet corner where she could rest. But every street seemed unsafe, every doorway closed to her. As she wandered, she thought about the stories she had heard of kindness. Stories of strangers helping strangers in their time of need. She hoped that such kindness was real, that it was not just something people said. She had no choice but to keep moving. She passed a small dirt road leading out of the city. It was quiet, lined with fields, and seemed far from the judgmental eyes of others. She decided to follow it, hoping it might lead somewhere safe. The road stretched on for miles. The sun began to set, casting long shadows over the fields. Emma's baby was tired now, the small cries turning into soft whimpers. She held the child close, whispering encouragement and love. Her own body ached, her stomach was empty, and her spirit was weary. Yet she kept walking. Somewhere ahead, she hoped, there would be shelter. Somewhere ahead, there would be someone willing to help. Finally, as the sky turned pink and gold, she saw a small ranch in the distance. Smoke rose gently from the chimney, and the faint sound of a horse or two could be heard. Her heart leapt. Could this be the place? Could someone here be kind enough to help her and her baby? She approached slowly, not wanting to alarm anyone. Her hand shook as she knocked on the wooden gate. A man appeared, tall and strong, dressed in simple clothes and a wide-brimmed hat. His eyes softened when he saw the baby in her arms and the exhaustion on her face. He did not speak harshly or rush her away. Instead, he asked gently, "Are you all right? Do you need help?" Emma nodded, barely able to speak through the tears in her eyes. She whispered, "Please. I have nowhere to go. My baby and I. We're hungry." The man's expression changed from curiosity to concern. He stepped aside and opened the gate. "Come in," he said kindly. "You both look like you could use some food and rest." Emma's relief was immense. She had finally found someone willing to help. As she walked through the gate, she felt a weight lift from her shoulders. For the first time in days, maybe weeks, she felt safe. She looked down at her baby, who had quieted in response to the calm and warmth around them, and whispered, "Thank you." Inside the small ranch, the man led her to a modest kitchen. He placed a warm loaf of bread and some milk on the table. Emma's hands trembled as she fed her baby. The baby's small mouth drank eagerly, and for the first time in days, Emma felt a flicker of hope. She had survived the streets, the hunger, and the fear. Now, with this stranger's help, she could begin to rest. The man introduced himself as Daniel, a cowboy who had lived on the ranch for many years. He did not ask for explanations. He did not judge. He simply offered food, warmth, and safety. Emma felt a sense of gratitude she could not put into words. For now, the struggle was not over. But the hardest part, finding someone willing to care, had passed. She could breathe, even if only slightly, for the first time in what felt like forever. That night, as Emma and her baby slept in a small but safe room, she thought about everything that had happened: the fear, the hunger, the endless walking, and the shame she had felt. But she also thought about hope, kindness, and the strength that had carried her this far. She realized that even in the darkest times, people like Daniel existed. People who could see the value in helping others, who could make a difference when it was most needed. Emma held her baby close, feeling the steady heartbeat and warmth. She knew the road ahead would not be easy. She still had challenges to face, and the scars of her past would not disappear overnight. But for now, she allowed herself to feel safe. She allowed herself to rest, and in that small, quiet ranch, surrounded by the gentle care of a stranger, Emma took her first true breath of hope. The world outside was still vast, unpredictable, and sometimes cruel. But she had learned something invaluable. No matter how lost or hungry or afraid she felt, help could come when she needed it most. And sometimes it came from the most unexpected places. A kind cowboy on a quiet ranch, willing to offer shelter, food, and a chance to start again. Next morning, sunlight filtered gently through the small window of the ranch room. Emma awoke to the quiet sounds of chickens clucking outside and the soft lowing of cows in the distance. She looked down at her baby, still sleeping peacefully, and felt a warmth she had not experienced in weeks. For the first time in a long time, she did not feel alone. She had food, a safe place to stay, and someone who cared enough to offer shelter. Emma stepped quietly from the bed, careful not to wake her baby. She peeked into the small kitchen, where Daniel, the cowboy who had welcomed them, was already busy with the morning chores. He moved with quiet efficiency, preparing a simple breakfast of eggs, bread, and fresh milk. The smell made Emma's stomach growl. She realized how hungry she truly was, and how much she had endured without proper food. Daniel noticed her standing in the doorway and smiled gently. "Good morning. You slept well?" he asked. His voice was calm, patient, and without any hint of judgment. Emma nodded, too tired and shy to speak at first. She offered a small smile. "Yes."
"Thank you,"
she whispered. Daniel gestured toward the table. "Come, eat. You and the baby need strength for the day." Sitting down, Emma fed her baby while nibbling at the warm bread. The simple act of eating felt almost luxurious. She had not realized how much she had missed the comfort of a proper meal. With each bite, her strength returned a little, and with it, her confidence. She felt more human, more like herself. Her baby, too, seemed calmer, cooing softly and gripping her finger tightly. After breakfast, Daniel suggested they step outside. "The sun is warm, and fresh air will do you both good," he said. Emma hesitated. She had spent so many days fearing the world outside, fearing people, fearing judgment. But something about Daniel's calm presence made her trust him. She carefully picked up her baby, stepping into the open yard. The light was bright, but not harsh. The ranch felt alive with quiet activity. Horses grazed lazily, and the soft breeze carried the scent of grass and soil. Daniel walked beside her, pointing out small details. "That horse over there is gentle."
"She won't hurt you. You can sit in the shade there if you want," he said.
Emma watched a brown mare nuzzle the fence gently. She felt a pang of longing, memories of a stable childhood, and small joys she had almost forgotten. For a moment she allowed herself to simply breathe and observe, letting the tension drain from her shoulders. Over the next few days, Daniel helped Emma and her baby settle into a routine. He showed her the small tasks around the ranch, feeding chickens, gathering eggs, and carrying water. It was simple work, but it gave her a sense of purpose. She realized that contributing even in small ways made her feel strong. The baby grew calmer too, often cooing and giggling at the sounds and sights of the ranch. Emma began to laugh softly at the baby's little antics, feeling a joy she thought she had lost forever. One afternoon, as the sun dipped low, Daniel brought a small basket of food to Emma while she sat under a tree, nursing her baby. "You need to rest," he said kindly. "You've been through a lot. It's okay to take it slow." Emma felt gratitude well up inside her. She had never been treated with such patience. Many people had looked at her with suspicion or indifference, but Daniel seemed to understand that she needed space, care, and time to heal. Emma spent hours talking quietly to her baby, imagining a future filled with safety and love. She told stories of kindness, of hope, and of dreams she wanted to pursue one day. Her baby listened, sometimes cooing in response, sometimes napping peacefully. For the first time, Emma allowed herself to hope. She thought, maybe we can truly start over. Maybe life can be gentle for a while. Daniel, meanwhile, continued to offer support without intrusion. He brought extra blankets, made sure they had enough to eat, and even showed Emma how to tend to the animals. He never forced her to do more than she was ready for, never asked about the past unless she chose to speak. Slowly, Emma felt a bond forming, not just with the baby, but with this kind stranger who had given them safety without conditions. One evening, Daniel invited her to sit by the fire in the small living area. The flames flickered warmly, casting soft light on the wooden walls. Emma sat with her baby on her lap, mesmerized by the dance of shadows. Daniel handed her a cup of warm milk. "You've both had a hard journey," he said gently. "You deserve some peace." Emma took a sip and nodded, overwhelmed with gratitude. Words were hard to find, but her eyes spoke what she could not say. As the days passed, Emma grew more confident. She began to take small walks around the ranch with the baby, learning to trust the world outside her immediate fears. She watched the animals, learned their habits, and even laughed when the chickens scattered suddenly or when a curious calf followed her footsteps. Each moment, however small, became a lesson in healing. The fear that had once controlled her life began to fade, replaced by cautious hope. Emma also began to notice changes within herself. The constant anxiety and dread that had weighed on her seemed lighter. She felt her body growing stronger with each passing day, nourished not only by food but also by kindness. She realized that survival was not just about getting through each day. It was about reclaiming hope and rebuilding trust. Daniel had unknowingly shown her that simple acts of care could restore dignity and confidence. One day, Daniel suggested that Emma try cooking a simple meal for herself and the baby. At first, she hesitated. She had no experience, and fear of failure made her hands tremble. But Daniel encouraged her gently, guiding her without taking over. Step by step, she learned to crack eggs, stir batter, and pour milk without spilling. The sense of accomplishment filled her with pride. She smiled at the baby who watched intently as if sensing her joy. Evenings became a time of reflection and bonding. Emma would sit by the fire, feeding her baby while Daniel tended to other chores. Occasionally he would join her, offering stories of the ranch, of animals, and of life lessons he had learned. Emma listened eagerly, fascinated by his calm wisdom. These quiet moments became a source of comfort, teaching her patience, resilience, and the value of steady kindness. Despite the growing sense of safety, Emma knew she could not stay dependent forever. She began to dream again, not of riches or grandeur, but of stability, learning, and small victories. She wanted to provide for her baby, to ensure a future where they would never have to face hunger and fear alone. Daniel encouraged these dreams, reminding her that small steps each day could lead to significant change over time. Winter approached slowly, bringing chilly nights and crisp mornings. Emma learned to layer clothing, keep the baby warm, and prepare firewood for the long nights. These practical lessons, simple as they were, gave her confidence. She realized she had strength she had not acknowledged before. Each day she grew more capable, more self-assured, and more hopeful about the future. The bond between Emma and Daniel strengthened over time. It was a quiet, respectful friendship built on trust. He never imposed, never demanded, but he always ensured they had what they needed. Emma began to understand that help did not always come with strings attached. Sometimes it came from someone with a generous heart who simply wanted to make a difference. One late afternoon, Emma sat outside, watching the baby play on a soft blanket. She marveled at how quickly time had passed. Just days ago, she had been lost, hungry, and terrified. Now, she was safe, cared for, and learning to rebuild her life. She smiled, feeling a deep sense of gratitude for Daniel and the quiet kindness he had shown. The baby laughed at the sight of a butterfly, and Emma's heart swelled with hope. As night fell, Emma tucked the baby into a warm crib and sat nearby, reflecting on the journey so far. The hardships had been immense, but the presence of one caring soul had made all the difference. She knew the road ahead would still be challenging, but for the first time in a long while, she felt capable of facing it. With a heart full of cautious optimism, she whispered to her baby, "We are safe now, and we will be okay." The stars shone brightly over the ranch that night, casting a gentle light over the small house. Inside, Emma felt a peace she had almost forgotten existed. She knew that life could be harsh, but it could also be kind. She had experienced the worst, and now she was beginning to experience something better. With patience, courage, and the guidance of a compassionate stranger, she was learning that even in the darkest times, hope could bloom. The days grew longer, and spring began to breathe life into the small ranch. Emma watched as tiny green shoots appeared among the grass, and flowers peeked from the earth. Life felt different now, more hopeful, more alive. The cold nights and long walks of fear were behind her, replaced by the warmth of food, shelter, and care. Her baby thrived as well, growing stronger each day, cooing, laughing, and exploring the small spaces around the house. Emma had settled into a routine. Mornings were spent feeding the animals, gathering eggs, and helping with small chores. Afternoons were for caring for her baby, preparing meals, and sometimes learning from Daniel about life on the ranch. Each task, no matter how simple, gave her a sense of purpose. She realized that being useful, even in small ways, brought her confidence and pride. She began to feel like she belonged somewhere, even if she had no family left in the city. Daniel noticed the change in Emma. He had always treated her with patience and kindness, but now he saw her strength growing. She was no longer timid or fearful, but determined and capable. He quietly offered guidance whenever needed, showing her how to feed the livestock properly or how to prepare simple meals that were nutritious for both her and the baby. Emma appreciated these lessons, not only for their practicality but because they symbolized a new start for her life. One afternoon, Emma carried a basket of fresh eggs from the chicken coop. Her baby, bundled in a soft blanket, laughed at the gentle clucking of the hens. Emma smiled, feeling a happiness she had not known in a long time. She thought back to the days she had wandered hungry, tired, and afraid. Now, life was different. She had warmth, food, and someone who cared for her without judgment. The memory of the streets felt distant, replaced by the gentle rhythm of the ranch. The baby's laughter often echoed across the yard, drawing smiles from Daniel and even from the older horses grazing nearby. Emma realized that her baby was growing up in safety, a privilege she had feared she would never give. She held the child close, feeling love deepen with every passing day. She spoke softly, sharing small stories and dreams, teaching the little one about kindness, courage, and hope. Every smile, every coo, reinforced her resolve to keep building a life worth living. Daniel also began to involve Emma in tasks that were slightly more challenging, showing trust in her abilities. He asked her to help repair fences, gather hay, and even guide the younger animals back to their stalls. At first, she was hesitant, unsure if she could handle the responsibility. But Daniel's gentle encouragement gave her courage. She discovered that her hands were strong, her mind quick, and her heart brave. She felt a pride that no hardship could take from her. One evening, as the sun dipped low, Daniel suggested they work on a small garden together. "Growing food is important," he said. "It helps feed the body and the spirit." Emma's eyes lit up. She had never gardened before, but the idea of nurturing life excited her. With careful hands, she planted seeds in neat rows, imagining the small vegetables and herbs sprouting in the weeks to come. Her baby watched with curiosity, occasionally reaching out to touch the soft soil. Days turned into weeks, and the garden began to grow. Emma tended it faithfully, watering the plants and protecting them from pests. She discovered joy in simple creation, pride in her ability to nurture life, and patience in watching slow growth. These lessons mirrored her own journey, slow, steady, and full of hope. Daniel smiled quietly at her progress, proud of the woman she was becoming. She was no longer the desperate, fearful figure who had arrived at the ranch. She was strong, capable, and alive. During this time, Emma also began to think about her future. She wanted more than survival. She wanted independence, security, and a life where she could thrive with her baby. Daniel encouraged her to explore possibilities, suggesting small ways to learn skills, manage responsibilities, and prepare for a future beyond the ranch. Emma listened intently, feeling a spark of ambition she had not felt in years. She realized that while the ranch provided safety, it also gave her the tools to rebuild her life. One quiet afternoon, Emma took her baby to the small stream behind the ranch. The baby laughed as water rippled under tiny hands, and Emma felt a lightness in her heart. She reflected on how far they had come. Not long ago she had wandered lost, hungry, and afraid. Now she was strong, her baby was healthy, and they had a home filled with care and kindness. She whispered a soft thank you to the world, grateful for the chance to start anew. The bond between Emma and Daniel deepened, but it was built on mutual respect rather than dependency. He never treated her as weak or helpless. Instead, he encouraged independence while providing guidance. He offered advice when asked, helped with practical tasks, and provided emotional support without ever overstepping. This balance allowed Emma to grow confident in her abilities while still feeling safe and cared for. Emma also began to interact more with the animals, discovering that each had its own personality and quirks. She laughed when a playful foal nipped at her sleeve or when a chicken ran across her feet unexpectedly. These small moments of joy reminded her that life could be simple, kind, and beautiful. They were lessons in patience, observation, and care, lessons that extended beyond animals to herself and her baby. One evening, after finishing her chores, Emma sat outside with her baby wrapped in a warm blanket. The sky was painted with hues of orange and pink, and the wind carried the faint scent of blooming flowers. She felt a deep sense of peace and accomplishment. She had learned to care for her baby, tend to the animals, and contribute meaningfully to the ranch. She realized that life was not just about survival anymore. It was about growth, learning, and finding joy in small victories. Emma also began to find her voice again. She shared her thoughts with Daniel, discussing ideas for improving the garden, tending the animals, or caring for the baby. Daniel listened patiently, offering guidance when needed but valuing her input. This respect strengthened her confidence. She understood that she was capable of making decisions and taking responsibility, skills that were essential for her future independence. The baby grew more curious each day, exploring the ranch under Emma's watchful eye. Emma took pride in guiding the little one safely, teaching simple lessons about the world around them. She marveled at how quickly the child was learning, and she felt gratitude for the opportunity to raise a baby in safety, love, and stability. The laughter of her child became a constant reminder of resilience and hope. As spring turned to early summer, Emma noticed changes in herself that she had never expected. She was no longer haunted by fear, despair, or shame. She had discovered inner strength, courage, and resilience. Her hands were strong, her mind was clear, and her heart was open. She realized that the hardships she had endured had shaped her, but they no longer defined her. She was becoming someone new, someone capable of creating a future for herself and her baby. Daniel observed these changes quietly, proud but never boastful. He continued to offer help, guidance, and friendship, always respecting her growing independence. He was patient, understanding that true growth took time and trust. Emma appreciated this approach, recognizing that real kindness did not rush or demand, it nurtured. One late afternoon, Emma stood at the edge of the garden, looking at the growing plants and vegetables. She felt a surge of accomplishment. The small green shoots represented more than food. They represented her own growth, resilience, and hope. She held her baby close, feeling a connection that was deep and unbreakable. She realized that life, even after hardship, could offer beauty, safety, and joy. That evening, as they sat by the fire, Emma reflected on the journey so far. From fear and hunger to safety and growth, she had learned to trust, to care, and to hope again. She whispered softly to her baby, "We have come so far, and there is still more to come. But we are strong, and we will face it together." The baby cooed, curling into her arms, a living reminder of love, hope, and resilience. Emma knew the future would still bring challenges, but she felt ready. She had found not only safety, but also purpose, confidence, and a sense of belonging. The ranch, the animals, and Daniel's quiet guidance had given her the tools to rebuild her life. She felt a deep gratitude for this second chance, and she vowed to honor it by becoming the best mother she could be, and by embracing the opportunities that lay ahead. As night fell over the ranch, Emma tucked her baby into the crib, kissed a small hand, and whispered a promise of love and protection. She stepped outside for a moment, gazing at the stars that shimmered brightly in the clear sky. The journey had been long and difficult, but she had discovered something invaluable: hope, strength, and the power of kindness. And in that quiet moment, Emma felt ready to take the next step in her journey. A step toward independence, renewal, and a life where she and her baby could thrive. The future was uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, she felt confident that they could face it together. Summer had fully arrived on the ranch, and the world felt alive with possibility. Birds sang from the trees, and the warm sunlight stretched across the fields. Emma moved through the small property with a sense of purpose she had never known before. Her hands, once trembling from hunger and fear, were now steady and strong. Her mind, once clouded with worry, was clear and determined. She had survived the worst, and now she was ready to shape her own future. Emma's baby had grown noticeably stronger and more curious. Every morning the little one would reach for the animals, babbling in delight as the chickens pecked at the ground and the foal nuzzled her tiny hands. Emma laughed frequently now, the sound light and free, a stark contrast to the quiet fear that had once defined her life. Watching her baby explore the world brought her joy she could not have imagined months before. It reminded her daily why she had to keep moving forward, why she had to become the mother her child deserved. Daniel continued to offer guidance, but in a different way than before. He now treated Emma as a partner rather than someone in need. He encouraged her independence, letting her take the lead with chores, the garden, and even minor repairs around the ranch. Emma appreciated this trust, which made her feel capable and respected. It was not just the physical safety the ranch offered, it was the confidence and skill she gained that made the greatest difference. One morning, Daniel handed Emma a basket filled with freshly picked vegetables. "These are for the town market," he said. "I think you're ready to try selling some yourself. It will give you practice managing things on your own." Emma hesitated at first, unsure if she could handle interaction with strangers and manage the small sales. But Daniel's encouraging smile reminded her that she was stronger than she realized. She nodded, her heart beating with nervous excitement. "I'll try," she said softly. The next day, Emma carefully arranged the vegetables in neat baskets and carried them to the small town nearby. Her baby was nestled safely in a sling against her chest. She felt a mixture of nervousness and pride. For the first time in months, she was stepping into the world not as a frightened, hungry woman, but as a capable, determined mother ready to provide for her child. People in the market smiled as she offered her fresh vegetables. Some bought small items, chatting pleasantly with her, and Emma felt a warmth she had not known existed outside the ranch. Each interaction, no matter how brief, strengthened her confidence. Back at the ranch, Emma reflected on how far she had come. She had gone from wandering alone, hungry and fearful, to being able to care for her child, manage responsibilities, and interact with the world confidently. She realized that the hardest part of her journey had been believing in herself again. Now she felt ready to face new challenges with courage and determination. Emma also began teaching her baby small lessons. She pointed out flowers, named the animals, and introduced simple games to encourage curiosity and learning. She found joy in watching her child's mind grow, understanding that the little one's happiness and development were directly tied to the stability and care she could provide. Each smile, each giggle, each new discovery brought her immense satisfaction and a deep sense of accomplishment. As summer progressed, Emma decided she was ready to try small steps toward complete independence. She began managing some chores entirely on her own, caring for the animals, maintaining the garden, and preparing meals. She even started keeping a small journal, noting important tasks, ideas for improvements, and reflections on her progress. Writing down her thoughts made her feel organized and in control, a far cry from the fear and uncertainty of the past months. One day, Daniel asked Emma if she wanted to try learning a few basic carpentry skills. "It might help you with repairs around the ranch or even in your own place someday," he suggested.
Emma hesitated, nervous about using tools, but she trusted Daniel's guidance.
Slowly, she learned to measure, cut, and hammer with care. Her confidence grew with each small accomplishment. She began to feel that she could truly handle life on her own one day, knowing she had the skills to provide safety and comfort for herself and her baby. Emma also began building a small network of friendly neighbors from the nearby town. She had always been shy and uncertain about interacting with strangers, but her experiences at the market gave her courage. She discovered that kindness existed outside the ranch too, that people could be helpful and supportive. She felt a sense of connection she had thought she would never experience again. Her life was no longer just survival. It was growth, community, and hope. The baby thrived in this environment, learning through exploration, laughter, and the gentle guidance of Emma. Emma marveled at the little one's curiosity and intelligence, understanding that this nurturing environment was shaping a bright future. She felt proud, realizing that the baby's safety and happiness were the greatest accomplishments of her journey. Each day was filled with small victories, successful chores, learning experiences, shared laughter, that reinforced her confidence in herself as a mother. One evening, as the sun began to set, Painting the sky in shades of orange and gold, Emma and Daniel sat together on the porch. The baby slept peacefully in a small crib nearby. They talked quietly about life, the future, and the lessons learned. Daniel reminded her, gently but firmly, that she was capable of anything she set her mind to. "You've grown so much," he said. "You're ready for more. Not because you need me, but because you're strong enough to take the next step." Emma smiled, a mixture of gratitude and determination in her eyes. Encouraged by Daniel's words, Emma began making plans for her future beyond the ranch. She dreamed of a small home of her own, a stable environment where her child could grow safely, and the opportunity to contribute meaningfully to the community. She started saving small amounts of money from her market sales and learning practical skills that would help her transition to independent life. Each step, no matter how small, felt like progress, and she celebrated every achievement quietly but proudly. Emma's bond with Daniel evolved into a deep friendship built on trust, respect, and mutual care. They laughed together, worked together, and shared quiet moments without the need for words. Daniel became a mentor, not a savior, guiding her gently while allowing her independence to flourish. Emma appreciated this balance, understanding that true help did not diminish her abilities, it strengthened them. Summer gradually gave way to early autumn, and Emma's confidence had grown immensely. She now walked through the ranch with purpose, tending the animals, caring for the garden, and managing the household with skill. Her baby, healthy and curious, played happily nearby, safe under her watchful eye. The days of fear, hunger, and despair felt like a distant memory. Emma realized that she had transformed not only her circumstances but herself. She was no longer the frightened woman who had arrived at the ranch months ago. She was a mother, a provider, and a woman with hope and determination. One crisp autumn morning, Emma decided it was time to explore more opportunities in town. She prepared a small basket of vegetables and carefully bundled the baby. As she walked through the quiet streets, she felt a sense of pride and confidence that was new to her. People smiled as she passed, some recognizing her from the market, others curious about her child. Each interaction reinforced her sense of belonging, her ability to navigate the world, and her growing independence. Returning to the ranch, Emma reflected on how far she had come. From a place of desperation and fear, she had built safety, stability, and hope. She had learned to care for herself and her baby, develop skills and trust in others without losing her independence. Life was no longer merely about survival. It was about growth, learning, and creating a future filled with possibility. One evening, as the sun set behind the hills, Emma sat outside with her baby on a soft blanket. She watched the little one giggle at the sight of a butterfly fluttering nearby. Tears filled her eyes, not from sorrow, but from gratitude and joy. She had faced unimaginable hardship, yet here she was, strong and hopeful, surrounded by kindness, love, and possibility. She whispered softly to her child, "We have come so far, and there is so much more to come. I promise you a life filled with love and safety." Daniel joined her quietly, standing a few steps away. He looked at Emma and the baby, pride evident in his eyes. He did not speak immediately, allowing the moment to linger. Finally, he said softly, "You've done all of this yourself. You've grown, learned, and become someone truly remarkable. I'm proud of you." Emma smiled, feeling a deep sense of accomplishment. She realized that while Daniel had provided guidance and care, it was her courage, determination, and resilience that had brought her and her baby to this point. In the weeks that followed, Emma continued to grow more independent. She managed her own responsibilities, interacted confidently with neighbors, and even helped newcomers to the town when she could. Her confidence inspired others, showing that kindness, patience, and determination could overcome hardship. She had become a symbol of hope, not just for herself and her baby, but for anyone facing struggles. As autumn gave way to winter, Emma knew that her journey was far from over, but she faced it with strength and hope. She had built a life where she could provide safety, love, and guidance for her child. She had learned valuable skills, gained confidence, and discovered the power of resilience. Most importantly, she had found that true kindness and support could change lives forever. One cold winter evening, as snow gently fell across the ranch, Emma sat by the fire, the baby nestled safely in her arms. She reflected on the long journey, from fear, hunger, and despair to safety, growth, and hope. She knew that life would continue to bring challenges, but she felt ready. With courage, determination, and love, she could face anything. She whispered to her baby, "We are safe, we are strong, and we will always be together." Emma had transformed her life, not only surviving but thriving. She had turned fear into courage, despair into hope, and loss into resilience. And as the snow fell gently outside, she knew that the future was bright, filled with endless possibilities for herself and her child.